Our next speaker is Juan Carlos Pinilla. Dr. Pinilla has a doctorate of veterinary medicine with a master's in animal science. He's a member of the PIC Technical Services team and focused on strategic account in both North America and Latin America. As genetics continue to improve, in his abstract, he says both targets and management practices need some update and upgrade. Not only do we push the pig to do more, but also requires more of our team members and more focused on sow management and piglet management. So look forward to hearing from him.
All right, thanks for the introduction, I appreciate it. The title has nothing to do with the presentation. I was looking for a catchy title for this afternoon, okay? But in a way, there is some art and there is some science, of course. But if you were waiting for some magic here, no. So the outline of the presentation, oh, interesting, I cannot move it here. So the outline is, I'm gonna talk a little bit about goals and targets, which is a very controversial topic. You know, every time that somebody put a target out there, you will be faced by skepticism from some people. Some other people will tell you that you are far behind the target. You know, so it's very hard to keep an audience completely satisfied with the targets. But no matter what, I have to do it because I believe that we need to set ambitious targets. And after that, I'm going to talk about a list of, which is not all-inclusive, about the art and science of producing more and better pigs. It is sort of going back to the basics. I remember this is a poster that is probably 30 years old that was hanging in an office down in Chile. This poster was created by a company, an American company that visited a company down in Chile to know the magic behind those numbers. Jorge, you know the company. And they got back and made the poster saying, not magics, just basics. Do 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year, what you have to do. So I'm talking here about gills that are usually an area of opportunity in most systems. I'm going to talk about precision breeding, which is a fancy way to say, you know, breed the sows in the most productive days after they are weaned. Also, breeding decisions, sow comfort and body condition to support sow wellness, animal welfare. Stillborn prevention, lay-downs mitigation, nursing facilitation, and scour control to support an improvement in piglet conversion. For those of you that are not familiar with the concept of piglet conversion, it is number of weaned piglets divided by number of total born in any given period. And finally, production flow consistency, which in a way was mentioned earlier this morning by Dave Wade. Round of applause. That was very timely, appreciated. It's not moving. Why these things happen to me and not to Jorge? Okay, I think, all right, so targets. And this time, I try to be a little more careful and I put the proposed targets. These are not mandatory targets. It's an invitation to consider those targets if you want to move your operation forward or to the next level of performance. There is a lot of targets there. I don't want you to stay focused on more than the trio that are highlighted there. So breeding back is one. You know, we have been asking farms to do, we consider a good farm a one that is breeding 90% of their weaned sows within 7 days after weaning. What Well, and I put 3 different categories, and you are free to, classify yourself where you want to be in those 3: fair, good, and great performance. So to be fair, you should be able to breed 90% of your sows within 7 days after weaning. Good performance is 92, and great performance will be 94. And now, if you want to go even deeper than that, and those are the averages, we could consider the percentage of weaned sows bred by day 3 to 5, which is a derivation from the traditional target. Move on to the total born. We believe that we have the material, the genetic potential, to have 17.5 total born in a great system, 16.5 in a good system, and 15.5 in a fair system. I know systems that are in that number or close to that number. The last but not the least is the average number of weaned piglets, 12.6, 13.5, and 14.5, to be in one of those 3 categories of performance. Now, when we talk about total born or whatever indicator we are talking, we always talk about averages. And averages are not wrong, but they don't tell the complete or the full story, right? So to have a 17.5 total born that we propose as to be in the great performer category, we believe that more than 50% of your sows farrowing should be farrowing 17 or more piglets. And the number of sows farrowing 12 or less should be below 10%. Knowing the distribution, and I think somebody said this earlier, knowing the distribution will allow us to identify the negative outliers, the outliers that are lagging the system behind. And if that is true for the total born, it's also true for the average weaned pigs. We believe, and I have seen this out there in different companies, that they track the percentage of sows weaning a certain amount of piglets. In this case, it's 14. I have seen farms tracking the percentage of sows weaning 15. So when 14 is the number, we believe that world-class performance is when more than 80% of your sows are weaning 14 piglets or more. That was as a target. And the title is Weaning More and Better Pigs. What is a better pig? I think the definition is system specific, right? We have a definition that is in our different materials. So a piglet that should be weaned anywhere from 21 to 28 days of age. We tend to not recommend under 18 days. I know there are systems out there that do it, but we tend to not recommend that as a universal indication. 9-pound minimum weight. The weaning should be consistent. And I'm going to use that word later as well. Consistency is something that we tend to forget too often. So the farrowing room should be managed to keep the integrity of the flow. The litter should be managed under integrity as well. What else? Yes. The bumpy road to achieve 14.5 weaned piglets. This is an extremely busy slide. We spent hours developing this slide. And the only intention, guys, was to say that in what we are calling the generation phase, so from the moment that the sow is able to, or the gill is able to ovulate, there is a potential to have 35 or a number like that, potential embryos. So from 35 potential follicles, how is that we end up with, in an extremely good system, with 14.5 weaned pigs? There is a 50% loss at different phases. The ovulation could be compromised. The sperm cells the semen dose could be compromised. Everything happening is going to kill embryos and eventually later piglets. My point is, or the point when we created that slide was, more piglets are lost inside the belly. We don't see them. But the general attention is given to the moments around farrowing. You know, typically I see farms having a problem with stillborns. They start to question the labor. They will think in having an extended, a second or a third shift. When I say, look, you are losing more piglets here when you're not facilitating or you're not promoting the ovulation or the biology. And here are the factors that can affect that. Health, of course, genetics, the gills, the metabolic status of the animals, so that is feeding and nutrition, and everything else. Could be promote or disrupt the number of piglets being born and then the number of piglets being weaned. So I want to talk about opportunity in the good old things. There is nothing really new here, but it's execution, right? So we evaluated, refreshed, and updated the requirements of eligibility for gills. We did this 3 years ago with Jenny Patterson from Alberta. And we found that the 4 elements are age at puberty, number of estrus at first breeding, body weight at first breeding, and age at first breeding. And the optimal ranges are indicated there. And we tried to, or we came up back then with an analogy, right? There are 4 elements. A car requires 4 tires. It can run with an spare, right? But it's not going to function well. So people always ask us, so what is the most important one? Give me one. Well, I can't. The 4 of them are equally important. Everyone that is not there is going to affect or is going to condition, is going to cap your productivity and longevity of those gills. Now, one thing that I'm looking recently from different systems is the percentage of achievement of those 4 elements in the group of gills. And then connect that with the parity 1 performance and retention. If you do this at home, you will be surprised. The group of gills that are having lower percentage of accomplishment tend to have lower performance and tend to last shorter in farm. Well, and additionally, of course, selection, immunity established in advance prior to the breeding, absence of feed disruptions in the 14 days prior breeding, and culling strategies for low performance. When we did that evaluation of the recommendation for gills, we found that and you have seen this for sure many more times, gills that are poor gills tend to be poor sows. Right? It's very hard that a suboptimal gill will make it into an optimal sow. That doesn't happen. So we thought that eventually, for a company, for a system, for a farmer that wants to go beyond traditional concepts, maybe to cull the gills that up to parity 2 haven't produced more than 20 pigs. Of course, that number is arbitrary. Next one, that is what I refer by precision breeding. This is nothing new. We got the data, and many systems will have their own data similar to this, showing that the gills bred by day 3 to 5 tend to have like 8 more points in farrowing rate compared with the average of the herd. And something similar is with the litter size, anywhere from 0.3 to 0.5 more piglets on that window. So the challenge for a production company would be, what do we need to do in order to reduce the number of animals bred on day on the same day of weaning or the day after or day 6 and 7. What do we need to do? And I'm not saying don't breed those animals, because at the end of the day, the breed tariff has to be hit, right? Then, sow well-being and breeding gestation and farrowing. I have to be clear here. Never confuse treatments with sow care. Sow treatments are part of the sow care, but if anybody in the room or in the farms believe that by treating sows, the sow mortality issue will be fixed, that is completely wrong. You know, it is like covering the sun with a finger. They are the last resort. Start by thinking that suboptimal gilt or sows will never transform itself into an optimal animal. In that way, gilt selection and strategic culling are part of the equation of improvement. Sow care starts by making the right breeding decisions, which is fancy to say avoid breeding junk. Okay, so Jorge is a nutritionist, and I guess there are other nutritionists in the room, so I'm not going to spend time here. But it has been said that thin sows going to farrow tend to be more associated than any other sow to prolapses. And also, if that is not good reason for you to manage the body condition in your herds, thin sows tend to have lower farrowing rate and lower litter size. And also Jorge presented the information on the feed intake in farrowing and the performance after in subsequent farrowing. So in farrowing, ensure water intake, which is something that I see that we fail on that in many cases. Anything, you know, temperature control, ventilation, clean and dry crates, minimal stress, pain management. And that is something that we have been working lately. You know, pain management farrowing is an extremely painful process. So we want the sows to start to be back on feed as soon as possible. If they are still in pain because of the farrowing, it even worse because the manipulation sleeving that people has to do, it complicates things. So, okay, this is showing urine-specific gravity. From 1.2, 1.02 and above means clinical dehydration. We check, I don't remember exactly the number of sows that we checked, but to our surprise, like 80% of the sows were clinically dehydrated by measuring the gravity of the urine. And this is indicating dehydration, right? So as this number goes up, the number of weaned piglets tend to go down, and the number of stillborns go up. So instead of reacting, sending more hands to assist sows to farrow, maybe we could go a step ahead of that and anticipate the problem. A sow that is dehydrated will stop farrowing. So the natural reaction of the staff will be to sleeve them more and more and more. Now this is a screenshot from Power VA. These are, I don't remember, 170 farms or so. And this was the percentage of litters having 2 or more stillborns. And then we show that there are more sows farrowing 2 or more stillborns as the room temperature at farrowing goes up. So now put this slide with the previous. A dehydrated sow in a warmer room is going to get tired faster. So it's going to stop farrowing, right? There will be some stillborns, and the staff will sleeve and sleeve and sleeve and sleeve more. So what happened is that the percentage of sows treated because fever the day after farrowing also goes up because the connection with the warmer room temperature. So maybe instead of react with more hands, maybe somebody could do something in advance. Okay, when addressing ladons, I wanted to make the case that, you know, in my opinion, the ladon is a social disturbance of the litter and the sow. The pellets will go to the sow in an untimely fashion. And they will go, I believe, more often when they have these smaller areas of heat and they are cold. They will get closer to a sow. Versus in this pad, heated pad, that is, the heat is homogeneous, it's evenly distributed in that surface. Okay, colostrum and nursing facilitation. What can we do? Avoid limitation to colostrum production first. Water intake, again. Reduce early farrowing induction. Try to avoid disrupt sows while they are farrowing. Split cycle extreme litters. We tend to recommend 17 plus, but that is a farm decision. But evidently, a 10 pellet litter probably doesn't need it to be split cycle. 200 cc's of colostrum intake on day one could overcome a poor microenvironment, but that is not an excuse to not provide a good one. That statement from Dr. Pio. Nursing. This is a matter of administration of the number of available functional ticks in a room, and ultimately to reduce the necessity to create nurse sows. Also important to consider that the first lactation will prime that animal for future lactations. So we shouldn't miss teat functionality because we are not giving the gill the possibility to nurse more pellets. Scours are still prevalent out there. We believe in the prevention, in cut down the transmission. Still, we do see a lot of farms where the staff is disseminating scours because they are moving pellets from one room to another, or from one crate to another, or even they are stepping down into the crates. I think this is not the last, but production flow consistency. We tend to be good in talking about efficiencies. How we are doing regarding to the target, right? However, there are not too many places where the consistency is evaluated. So in this case, there are two different, this is a subset of this one, so 55 farms. Look, breed target, 14 out of 20 weeks, they are hitting the target, 70% of the farrowing target, 65% of the replacement breed. So we just not need to consider the averages. You know, we need to go deeper and look for the reasons of variations. So consistency, a concept that was mentioned earlier by other speakers. Finally, takeaways. Thinking big is always a good place to start. The road ahead is not free of obstacles. We will fail many times before to arrive to the target. However, when talking about targets and performance, you know, the journey is as important as the target. Every time that you see a target, the target is only indicating the direction. If we move in that direction, a year from now, we will be better than the day one. Consider 17 total born as a possibility. 30% of the sows farrowing 19 plus will move the average up. Aim for more than 70% of sows winning 14 plus to take advantage of larger litters born. Achieve numerical targets without compromising pellet quality. review the wind to service interval, as there is a tremendous value there, an opportunity there. While targets indicate direction, just stay focused on the journey. And the key areas of focus for success, and there are many others, but if we fail on this, the others probably won't be as successful. Yields, wind to service interval, sow wellness, pellet conversion, and production flow consistency. And that's all what I have.
Thank you, Dr. Pinilla. We have a couple minutes for questions. I have one to start off with, I guess. You talked about urine-specific gravity and dehydration in sows and water intake. What sort of water delivery systems or methods do you see as maybe the best and the worst in terms of if we're going to replace, remodel, or build new farrowing, how should we deliver water to our sows?
Look, I don't have any personal preference. I do believe that maintenance is key, though, especially in farrowing.
Any other questions? If not, thank you once again.